Let me give you some examples. So let's try and evaluate this. Anytime you see to the power of a negative, extract the negative 1 from this negative 3. So for example, 2 over 3 to the power of negative 1 to the power of positive 3. Because whenever you have x to the power of a to the power of b, you would simply multiply the two indices. Now, if you multiply the two indices here, it will then give you negative 3. So whenever you have to the power of negative 3, break it up as a negative 1 and a positive 3. So now, looking at this to the power of negative 1, if you have a fraction and then you power it by negative 1, you simply turn the fraction upside down. And we've seen why this is the case. So let's just apply it now. So turn it upside down, that would be 3 over 2 to the power of 3. Because applying that negative 1, you simply turn it upside down, which will then give you this to the power of 3. So to the power of 3, in your mind, you've got to visualize 3 over 2 times 3 over 2 by itself 3 times, basically. So in your mind, visualize this. You don't actually write it down. So that would be top times top times top. That would be 27. And then bottom times bottom times bottom, that would be 8. So the final answer here is 27 over 8. Okay, so next one. So for this second one, extract the negative 1 from this. So imagine it as x to the power of 2, y to the power of 1, over z to the power of 3, to the power of negative 1, to the power of 2. So extract the negative 1, because remember, x to the power of a to the power of b is a times b will then give you negative 2. So extract the negative 1 from this negative 2. That will then give you this. Now turn the fraction upside down, because anything to the power of negative 1, you turn it upside down. So that will then be z to the power of 3 over x squared y all to the power of positive 2. So now in your mind, you got to visualize this as a fraction multiplying by itself twice. So in your mind, visualize this. In your mind, visualize z to the power of 3 over x squared y times by its exact same self to the power of 3 x squared y. So now you don't actually write this down, you visualize this in your mind. So top times top would be z to the power of 6 over, remember we're doing this thing here. So when you come to do this, you visualize this in your mind. But when you come to write it, it would be bottom times bottom. That would be x squared times x squared. That would be x to the power of 4. And y times by itself would be y squared. This here would be your final answer for the second one. Okay? So you don't actually write this down. You visualize it in your mind. So it's top times top, which will then give you this. Bottom times bottom, which will then give you this. Okay? So this is your final answer for the second one. And for the third one, extract the negative 1 from this. So visualize this as x to the power of 4 y squared over z to the power of 6 to the power of negative 1 to the power of a half. Remember, a half is like a square root. Now, using the negative 1, turn it upside down because of this. So that will then give us, I'm going to write up here, that will then give us, turning it upside down, it will then give us z to the power of 6 over x to the power of 4 y squared, and then to the power of a half. Okay? So now what is the square root of this fraction? If I were to give you, let's say if I were to give you 9 to the power of a half, you would consider 9 to the power of half times 9 to the power of half gives you 9 to the power of, you would add the two indices to give you 1. Basically, 9 to the power of half is something, when you times by itself, it gives you the number 9. It turns out to be the number 3 here. 3 times 3 is 9. So when it comes to this, you're actually looking for something. When you times it by its exact same self, it gives you this thing here. it gives you z to the power 6 over x to the power 4y squared. So the square root of this thing is actually whatever, something times by itself to give you this. Well, it turns out to be z to the power 3, because look, z to the power 3 times z to the power 3 gives you z to the power 6. And looking at the denominator, it's got to be x squared here, and then x squared here, because x squared times x squared will give you x to the power 4. And looking at the y, it would be this, y here. So the point is, the square root of this thing here is this thing here. It would be z to the power 3 over x squared y. So that would be your final answer. Okay?